let's talk about a spiritual leader whose whole life is just this beautiful paradox. We're going to dive into the story of a major foundational figure in history who, believe it or not, did everything he possibly could to be forgotten.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if a great leader asked to be totally erased from history? In a world that's all about building your brand and leaving a legacy, can you imagine someone so important they actively tried to just vanish from the record? Well, that's the mystery at the very heart of who Lokanātha Goswāmī was.
And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? The Karchana Charitamrita. I mean, this is one of the most important books in his entire tradition, asking to be left out of it. That's like the star player of a championship team telling the reporters, hey, when you write the history of this season, just leave my name out of it. It's an act of humility that is just so profound, and it really defines his whole story.
So that's where we're going to start. We're going to piece together the life of this pivotal, yet intentionally hidden saint, who basically vanished.
You know, this makes his story feel like a fascinating piece of spiritual detective work. Here you have a cornerstone of a major tradition, but because he wanted to be obscure, we have to connect all these little dots from the few things his friends were even allowed to write down. So the thing to remember is his importance is matched only by his incredible humility.
So how did it all start for him? Well, his life's work didn't kick off with some big public announcement or a grand 5-year plan. Nope. It started with a private, divine instruction. Okay, just to get our bearings, take a look at this timeline. He was born way back in 1483 and lived for a full century. And you can see he gets to the Holy Land of Vṛndāvana in 1509. That's the moment his mission kicks off, a mission that would last for more than 70 years.
That's it. Simple, but so incredibly powerful. This wasn't some personal ambition he cooked up. It was a direct calling he received in the most personal way you can imagine.
And get this, the dream wasn't just for him. The great spiritual master, Lord Chaitanya, appeared to both Lokanātha and his close friend, Bhūgarbha Goswāmī, with the exact same message. Their mission was crystal clear: go to the ancient land of Vṛndāvana and uncover all these sacred spots that had been lost over time.
Now, this shared mission, it was actually part of an even bigger project. Lokanātha wasn't just off on his own. He was a key player on a kind of spiritual dream team.
He was actually the senior member of this incredible group, the Six Goswāmīs. And their job? Nothing less than the complete spiritual revival of Vṛndāvana. You could really think of them as the architects of the city's entire spiritual renaissance.
And their to-do list was just massive. I mean, they had to go out and find all the lost holy places, set up temples and formal worship, and write the foundational spiritual books that would guide their tradition for centuries. It was a truly monumental task.
But even within this group of absolute spiritual giants, Lokanātha really stood out. While the others were leading big communities and writing these huge, voluminous scriptures, Lokanātha was practicing this extreme personal humility. He's the one asking for his name to be left out of books. And, this is the big one, he made a vow to never, ever accept any disciples.
And that vow, his promise not to accept disciples, is right at the center of the most famous story of his life. It really brings us to the emotional heart of what we're talking about today.
Okay, so first we have to be super clear on what disciple means here. It's not just a student. It's this deep, sacred bond where a guru formally accepts a follower and gives them spiritual initiation. For Lokanātha, taking on that kind of role just felt like it would be a distraction from his own quiet, humble service.
But then, wouldn't you know it, a dream changes everything again. Lord Chaitanya himself comes to Lokanātha in a dream and tells him, you have to break your vow, but for one person and one person only, a devotee named Narottama Dasa.
And this is where the story just becomes legendary. Narottama shows up just full of devotion, but Lokanātha, sticking to his vow, refuses him. So what does Narottama do? This is incredible. For an entire year, every single night, he secretly performs the most humble service you can imagine. He cleans the area where his guru goes to the toilet. He didn't want any credit, he just wanted to serve. This act of pure, selfless humility was so powerful that Lord Chaitanya appeared to Lokanātha in another dream, telling him he had to finally accept this devoted soul. And at that, Lokanātha's heart just melted, and he accepted Narottama Dasa as his one and only disciple.
So, for a man who wanted to leave zero trace, what did his legacy actually become? Well, surprise, surprise, it's another beautiful paradox.
This prayer from his one disciple, Narottama Das, just captures it all. You can feel the love. The legacy wasn't about fame or having tons of followers. It was about the pure, single-minded devotion he lived and breathed, and that he passed on.
And that devotion was laser-focused on his most precious possession. As the story goes, Lord Krishna himself appeared before Lokanath and personally gifted him a small deity, which he named Radha Vinoda.
But it's how he cared for this incredible divine gift that shows you everything about him. While all these huge grand temples were being built around him by the other Goswāmīs, Lokanath carried his beloved deity in the simplest way possible, in a little cloth bag hung around his neck. It was this constant, personal, intimate relationship.
And that brings us to the final, beautiful irony of it all. Man who wanted no fame, who asked to be erased from the books, who carried God in a simple cloth bag, today, he has the largest and most prominent tomb in the whole temple courtyard. His humility was so immense, it became his monument.
So we're left with this question. In our world today, a world that is all about self-promotion and building a personal brand, what can we learn from a life that was dedicated to vanishing? The story of Lokanātha Goswāmī seems to suggest that sometimes the greatest legacy you can leave is the one you never even tried to build.